This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's talk about Shawn for a minute here. He's had, quite the career here in the WWF. Of course, he came in as a rocker, and then obviously they had a big split that people still talk about to these days. Developed himself a reputation for being one of the best in-ring performers in North America. Meltzer wrote that all the time. And he becomes the Intercontinental Champion and has a sniff at some main events with Bret Hart and the like, but then eventually becomes the man. He had main evented a WrestleMania and challenged for the world title and won Royal Rumbles, but he becomes the man after WrestleMania 12. And Bret goes away to take some time off, work on Lonesome Dove, and learn a new hold, as you like to say. Yep. But what it allows Shawn to do is to really sit in the driver's seat of the WWF. And he has a series of incredible matches with everyone from Kevin Nash to Mick Foley and everyone in between. But now here at Survivor Series 96, he drops the belt to Sid, and he's going to have this big redemption story in his hometown, the Dome Show. It feels like in January of 97. Well, in fact, for the last calendar year, Vince McMahon is in the Shawn Michaels business. And I've talked a lot with Bruce Pritchard over on Something to Wrestle. Whenever they were trying to make Bret Hart the man, they weren't really exactly sure, how do we market him? What do we do? And they just boiled down to, well, what would we do if he was Hulk? Let's just do that. The idea being, it worked. Let's just rinse, lather, repeat, and do it with Bret. But their presentation was obviously much different. What about Shawn Michaels? At this point, you're behind the scenes. Are you sold on Shawn being the leader, not just of the new generation, but getting this company back to its prior glory? Because in January of 97, it's not the strongest the company ever was. We are still trying to rebuild and get back where we were. Did you think Shawn was the guy? We know Vince had that confidence. Did you?
Well, first of all, trying to figure out what to do with Bret Hart is almost fucking embarrassing.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know what to do, and we didn't know this. We didn't know shit. He's arguably in that small conversation of great performers that the talents love to work with and work around and be around. And you got to look past who can do Hurricane Ranas. You got to look past who could do something off the top rope. And the fact that we had issues figuring something to do with Bret is, when you hear it back all these years later, it's embarrassing. That's all I'm saying. It's really, really embarrassing. I wouldn't even want to admit that. I'd plead the fifth or something. As far as in-ring abilities were concerned, Conrad, any idiot would have no issues endorsing Shawn Michaels as the next guy.
Right.
He was like Ric Flair was in the mid-'80s. He was so much better than everybody else, it wasn't even a comparison. So from a work standpoint, bell to bell, he was your guy. From a maturity standpoint, and when you're the champion of a company like WWE now, WWF then, and you are the number one champion, the WWE champion, which is, it's funny they got a universal champion because they got to have two titles for two TV shows is their logic. That's fucking stupid as well. That's a cop-out. That's lazy-ass booking. We can't figure out what to do with Bret. Yeah, you can't figure out how to anoint a one champion. One world champion. There's only one world I looked at lately. But nonetheless, it's a TV title. That's what it is. That's all it is. So the issue would always be with talents that came to me was, what do you think about Shawn? You know how he is. Everybody knew he was spoiled and entitled and immature. And he had Vince McMahon in the palm of his hand. Because again, Vince thought, this kid reminds me of me when I was young. So if that's the rationale, then okay, you got it. But working wise, yes. Maturity wise, we got to see.
Well, I want to circle back to your Bret Hart conversation. You're saying, oh, he's one of the best in-ring performers. He's your guy. Nobody's arguing that. But there is a difference between being the best in-ring performer and being a draw. I mean, nobody would ever call Hulk Hogan the best in-ring performer, but he was the best draw the company ever had at that point. it does feel like we're looking to return to that prior glory. Top line revenue, not talking about quarter star ratings in the Observer, but dollars at the house. And the business is not where it once was. Did you think that Shawn was going to be the guy to be the draw? I'm not saying in ring. Everybody knows he's got it in ring, but could he appeal to the masses, the casual fan, the lapsed fan?
Of course he could. If you keep him in between his lines,
right?
Keep him in his lane.
Yeah.
Don't self-destruct. Don't burn out. Don't overthink shit. Internalize things and make yourself miserable. Of course he could. Did Shawn have more sizzle than Bret? Absolutely.
Right.
But nobody's going to tell me that on any roster I would ever fantasy book and envision in my lifetime, I would not want Bret Hart on that roster. Maturity, leadership, and he made everybody he worked with better. He knew how to embellish one's attributes or assets and to hide their downfalls or liabilities. So, but it's incredulous to me that to me, Bret Hart's a once in a lifetime performer, but so is Shawn Michaels. And with that cachet, Shawn Michaels brings more sizzle. So if you're looking for the Hulk Hogan sizzle and the music videos and the music, the entrance music and all that stuff, Conrad, then yeah, you're on the right track. Obviously, Shawn's got all that. And he has that over Bret. But in the ring and in the locker room and other areas that a lot of fans don't see or don't give a shit about, it's all about the hype. It's all about the sizzle, man. And I find that somewhat eye-rolling, but in any event, Shawn's issue is going to be maturity. And can you be professional enough? Because whether you like it or not, Shawn, you're the leader of the team now. The leader of the team, that distinction goes along with the champion, whether it's good or bad. And that's just how some of the boys are brought up. That's how they're raised, and that's how they're indoctrinated in this crazy ass business. That the champion's the guy. He's the top guy. And so that would be my issue there. But I just didn't know how long Shawn could sit in the saddle based on his previous behavior.
You mentioned a minute ago when you booked San Antonio, you knew the finish. You knew Shawn was getting the belt back. Did you also know going into that our main event for WrestleMania 13 is a rematch from 12? It's Shawn and Bret for the world title.
I'm sure that was involved in the discussion because the Royal Rumble is nothing more than a stop off on the journey to WrestleMania.
Right.
Always has been, always will be. It's a stop it's a train stop. So, I don't know if I knew, but we all had a pretty good feeling is we're going to go with Austin and we're going to go with Shawn. We're changing the guard here. And, but I don't know that we actually, it seemed like we discussed that some. Well, WrestleMania was always the creative focal point. So in other words, if we did a pay-per-view and TVs for that matter, regular TVs, before WrestleMania, the question was always, well, how does this help WrestleMania? It's all about WrestleMania. So I think there probably was discussion made, Conrad, but I can't remember the specifics of it, but I can't imagine it not being discussed because, again, everything we were doing, the Survivor Series in 96, the Royal Rumble in 97, everything else was leading to WrestleMania. So I'm sure it was discussed.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you're going to notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.